Hello, everybody, and as always, welcome to the Christian Bible Study Ministry podcast. I want to start this thing off today by sharing kind of a interesting thing that happened this morning in church, and I do believe that I needed this, and so did a lot of people. There was no real sermon today, and this was because of the fact that I guess the Spirit just led the congregation to just start singing songs of encouragement. That the God in the valley is also the God of the mountain, or vice versa, And I'm sitting here thinking about this right now, and that does kind of, in a way, deal with what we're studying here. And before I go any further, I want to say that I'm glad to say that two people came to Christ this morning in church, and so that was awesome as always. And also, I want to be sure to say that anybody who is listening to this, who is having some kind of problem or has a prayer need in their life, you don't have to contact me. You don't have to leave a message on this podcast page or anything, but just bring it to the Lord, because He knows about it. And so anyway, we come now to the second part of our study of Daniel, and this has actually turned into a 3-part series because of the complexity and the length of all this stuff that we're looking at. And turn now to Daniel chapter 8, and where we are going to break down this chapter. We left off at the end of chapter 7 having talked about the fourth beast, which is the most terrible of these beasts that are mentioned. And I'm pretty sure that we can say that this is, at least in a sense, about the Roman Empire. In fact, now I believe that it is referring to the Roman Empire. And we're told that 10 kings come from this animal, and that one leader will replace 3 of them, or subdue 3 of them, and have total control of the world. And, of course, Rome is gone, but it looks like we are told that a sort of representation of it is in the future. It's like it's a pretty kind of, it is a complex prophecy when you sit down and try to study all this. And again, we're going to get into that a little bit later in this message. And again, this will be led by one man. One man will have control over this final earthly empire. And, we will for a bit step back from the fourth beast and start with chapter 8, which covers events that, for us, have already happened. So, start with verses 1 through 3. We'll read, "In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last." So a little research shows Belshazzar was the grandson of King Nebuchadnezzar, and he did not learn from his grandfather's mistakes, evidently, and he worshipped idols. And so Daniel was shown. Anyway, Daniel was shown the Persian city of Shushan, which was the Persian capital. And the ram is, of course, in this case, Persia. And it would expand and conquer Babylon, and doing so, and it did so as it willed. Babylon was not going to be able to stand against this new power. And so, excuse me. Sorry, y'all, I just realized I missed verse 4, so we're going to go back and read that. I apologize for this. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. Again, Babylon, it is told here that Babylon, even as great as it was not going to be able to withstand this rising pressure from this new empire, this new threat that was coming from its east. It was going to fall. And so we go now to verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So in this verse, we see a goat appear from the west. The speed of his conquest is such that it is like, he doesn't even touch the ground. And research is key here, especially in dealing with this book of Daniel. The notable horn would be Alexander the Great. Go to verse 6. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had there seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. We see here that Greece crushed Persia, and the empire of Alexander the Great, it was very quickly established, and he just ran roughshod over whoever he wanted to. It was not a long-lived empire, however. And verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. He totally and completely conquered people. He totally and completely ruled those that he conquered. We go now to verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Alexander died, and his empire, was split up into four different. It was split up among four of his generals. Alexander was born in 356 BC and died in 334 BC. His lack of an heir resulted in four generals, each having a portion of the empire. And so we go now down to verses 9 through 12. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. This is an interesting passage here. This could, in a sense, be a reference to a man named Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus called himself the illustrious one, or he thought of himself as illustrious, and he exalted himself and heavily persecuted the Jews. He outlawed Judaism, and he was very much a pagan. He did not like the Jews for some reason. He hated them. He wanted them persecuted. He committed genocide. And history tells us that he stopped the temple sacrifices and killed pigs on the altar. However, due to what Jesus says centuries later about the desolation of abomination having not yet taken place, it seems Antiochus is not the person talked about truly in this prophecy. And again, Antiochus did these things. He established himself as worthy of worship. He persecuted the Jews. He killed them. He made them eat pig meat and just all kinds of horrible things. But again, this does not seem like it does not seem that he was the fulfillment of this prophecy necessarily. And again, this is because of what Jesus says later on in the New Testament. Go to verses 13 through 14. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. It could be that this refers to what Antiochus did. 2,300 days is about 6 1/3 years, which is about the length of time that Antiochus did. And once he died, the Jews cleansed the temple. Go to verses 15 through 16 now. And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. A short exposition of this pretty much is that Daniel was in some pretty awesome company here. He was in the company of none other than Gabriel. Gabriel is a very prominent, one of the most well-known angels in the entire Bible, and he was speaking directly to Daniel. Again, that's some pretty nice company, don't you think? Verses 17 through 18. So he came near to where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. Now, this is to say that Daniel was in awe. He was in such awe that he fell down and being told while sound asleep that the vision would happen at the end. And this happens to people even today. The Lord will speak to us in our sleep. Of course, in Genesis, he caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and while Adam was asleep, the Lord created women. But the Lord does even today, still speak to people in their sleep. He's done it to me, and I know he's done it to other people too. Verses 19 through 20. And he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest, having 2 horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. So it is confirmed to Daniel that the 2 kingdoms mentioned here are Persia and Media. And the goat is, of course, the kingdom of Greece, which was led by Alexander. We go now down to verses 22 through 23. Excuse me, we're going to go back and read verse 21. I missed that one too, but I'm sorry, y'all. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now down to verses 22 through 23. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Alexander died, again, as we said before, and 4 of his generals split the empire into quarters, into 4 different parts. And these are all known to history, and I'm not going to go and name all these kings and things, but they were part of the fulfillment of this prophecy. And at some point later, a king of fierce countenance will rise after them. At some point, there's going to be a king of fierce countenance. We know that this is obviously going to be a very powerful entity that the world will have to deal with at some point. And he is not going to be a person who is going to be on the side of the Lord, obviously. He is going to be a person who is learned in dark things, which I take to mean satanic and occult practices. And he will speak and practice these dark things. Go to verses 24 through 25. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. This is a reference, it is a reference to the Antichrist. The Antichrist will not be powered by his own power. He will be powered, satanically inspired. He will prosper from a human standpoint, at least. He will make awful war against the saints, and he will magnify himself above everything. He will be a person who says, "I am God. There is no other. You must worship me. You must worship me as God." But then the Lord shall stop. The Lord will step in and basically very quickly destroy him. It's not even going to be much of a fight. The Lord is not going to waste his time in dispatching him. He is going to readily and handily, totally, completely destroy this man and his kingdom. In verses 26 through 27, this is the end of the chapter. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted, and I was sick certain days afterward. I rose up and did the king's business. And I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. So Daniel, again, was overwhelmed by all this stuff that he had seen. And he was so overwhelmed by it that he was made sick by it. And no one that he talked to could understand the vision. The angel told him to seal it up. It wasn't going to be known, people weren't going to understand the full consequences and meaning of this for a long time. So, now at the end of this chapter, I will say that I believe that both the worst and best of these visions is yet to come. We have yet to come to the worst empire, which is the world has never seen. It'll be the worst empire that the world has ever seen. And we have not yet seen the best and the everlasting empire, which will never end, which is the empire of Jesus Christ, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And, talking a little bit again about Antiochus, some people believe that Antiochus was the Antichrist. I believe he was an Antichrist, but not the Antichrist. Jesus tells us the abomination of desolation has not happened yet, and it will happen during the reign of the Antichrist, who will demand worship, and undoubtedly through something. And y'all. He will set up something in the temple, maybe a statue of himself or some kind of image of himself at the temple, which, as we all know today, as of today, the temple is not rebuilt. It has not been built again. So that will be done at some point in the future, and we don't know when. And again, because of the complexity and the length of all this material, there is going to be, of course, another part to the series, and that will continue with part 3. And I will end this segment now, as I always do, with just a simple prayer. Lord, if there's anybody here listening who is wanting to know Christ, and if they know that they're a sinner and that they need to be saved, I pray that they would do so now. For you say that today is the day of salvation, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today. So I pray that anybody who is being led to accept Christ would do so now. And Lord, I just pray blessings upon everyone who listens to this, whether they know that they're blessed or not, no matter what their situation is, sickness, financial problems, whatever. I pray that they will experience and know your blessings, and it's in Christ's name I pray this. Amen.